Hi, it's Mark from 109 Training and welcome to this second video looking at flight planning made simple. And in this video we're going to follow on from the previous video where we looked at how to plan a route, and we're going to use this planning to determine what corrections we need to make in the air to our time and to our track. So if you haven't done so already, take a look at the first video where we talked through how to plan this route. So we're routing from the VRP at Leeds Bradford Airport, which is Eckert Reservoir, or one of the VRPs, up until Malton. And we decided with a TAS of 100 knots and wind speed of 020 at 15, it was going to take us 21 minutes, and we needed to fly a magnetic heading of 054, and our minimum safety altitude was 1800 feet for the route. So what I'm going to do now is talk you through what I would call my in-flight routine as I was flying this leg. So hopefully find Malton, and to be able to correct my track en route, so I definitely fly overhead Malton, and to determine whether it's going to take me 21 minutes, and if it's not going to take me 21 minutes, if the forecast wind isn't correct, then what time I'm actually going to reach Malton. And if you remember from the previous video, we've used this technique of drift lines. So we've put on 10-degree drift lines either side of track, and we've broken the route up into 4 different sectors, and we've got timings that we expect to reach each of those waypoints along the route which we've drawn on our chart. So I'd always start my route from an obvious feature or landmark. So you absolutely can start from the overhead of an airfield if there's no restrictions from doing that. But that can add time if you're needing to climb up into the overhead. So what I would typically do is determine what direction I was departing, and then pick a nice reference feature to start. That I could find nice and easily once airborne, but then I could use as a reference point to start from. And this route is departing from Leeds Bradford Airport, so we're in controlled airspace. So we're restricted a little bit on our choice of fixes. But Eckert Reservoir is typically where we would depart from the east. So this is what we're going to use as our starting point of the route, and that's where we plan the route from. So I'm going to get airborne. Say we were departing runway 32, we would depart to the northwest, and then we'd make a right turn and look for Eckert Reservoir. And as I got close to Eckert Reservoir, I would then orally update myself and my examiner or my passenger of what was going to happen next. And I used the technique of HAT, so heading, altitude, time. Again, my theme throughout this is just nice and simple. So I'll be thinking, right, what heading am I going to be flying when I get to Eckert Reservoir? If I've got a HSI or a DI with a bug on it, I would set that bug to remind me. The other nice trick you can do if you've not got one of those, you maybe have an OBI in the cockpit, so you could I would spin the OBI in the cockpit to that heading just to remind me. I'm going to check on my plug to check what my altitude is for that route. So I'm going to be expecting to fly at 3,000 feet. At Leeds Bradford, often we might get a departure where we have to remain below 2,000 feet until clear of controlled airspace, and we can just see the edge of the controlled airspace here. So I may brief myself, I'm going to remain at 2,000 feet until I reach the edge of controlled airspace, and then I'm going to climb to 3,000. Or you may well not get any restrictions and be able to climb to 3,000 feet straight away. And then time, I'm going to brief myself, so I'm expecting this leg to take me 21 minutes, and then I would just get my timer ready, whatever that be, whether you're using equipment in the cockpit or maybe a stopwatch, just get that handy, reset that, get that ready to go. And then I'm going to continue round, and I'm going to get, as soon as I'm overhead Eckert Reservoir, I'm going to repeat those checks. So heading, check, I'm definitely on the correct heading, so I'm on 054. Altitude, whether I'm remaining at 2,000 until clear of controlled airspace or whether I'm at 3,000 by that point. And then time, I'm going to check that the clock is running. And that's a really important one. The number of times, again, seen students where we've got a few minutes into the leg and then they've forgotten to hit go on the timer, and then all that work that you've done on the ground to make this nice and accurate has gone, and all you can do is estimate roughly how long you've been airborne. And then I carry out a gross error check just to check that I'm on the right heading, or roughly on the right heading, and I've not made any silly mistakes by looking. I've not turned onto 300 instead of 030, for instance, and an easy kind of things that you can make mistakes like that. So what I do is I look out ahead, and I'm going to see what I'm expecting to see. So on this particular leg, I'd look out to the right, and I'd expect to see all the urban area of Leeds, out to my right hand side, and that should be really, really nice and obvious, the edge of the city. And if I was heading towards the city, then clearly I'm on the wrong heading. And then I can look out ahead, again, depending what the visibility is like on the day, I can see I've got some villages out just to the right of track, so Collingham, and I might even be able to see Wetherby at this point. So I would just check, particularly that first one is a nice obvious one, and then look ahead. I'm expecting to see a built-up area that's kind of a bit of a long, thin shape, and then maybe Wetherby in the distance. And then if I'm happy that I'm on track, I then go, my next waypoint is at 5 minutes 30. I can then put my map away and then look out and enjoy the scenery, and then continue my route, and just my normal in-flight routine, look out, attitude, instruments. So I'm looking to fly as accurate as I can in terms of my altitude, maintaining heading, and then maintaining my speed. And so just my in-flight routine as I'm flying along is just maintaining that all the time, look out, attitude, instruments. In my head, I know I'm expecting to be flying just to the south of Wetherby, so I'm sure Wetherby will then become visible if it's not at that point. And then a couple of minutes before I reach my 5 minutes 30, I'm thinking, right, what's happening next? So at 5 minutes 30, I'm expecting to be just past Wetherby Racecourse, and it should be just behind me. So with about a minute to go, I should be kind of crossing over Wetherby Racecourse. But then fly along, and I look out, get to 5 minutes 30, and I can see Wetherby Racecourse out to my right hand side, and I'm overhead the motorway. So I know straight away I'm off track. So what do I need to do? I need to determine how much I'm off track. And so this is why this method is really, really simple to be able to do that. So you may have heard of the 1 in 60 rule. So you may, if you're mathematically minded and be able to work out that calculation, divide a number by 60 in your head, be able to correct that drift. I'm not able to do that, to be honest. So this is why I use this technique. So what I'm going to do now is use these drift lines to determine how far off of track I actually am. So what I'm going to do is just visualize. I could draw a line if I wanted, like I've done here. Typically, when you've done this a few times, you can fairly quickly get used to kind of guesstimating how far off track you are. So there's 10 degrees, so I'm just a bit more than half. So I'm going to say I'm 6 degrees off of track. And we don't need to calculate this to, more than accurate of a degree or two, because we don't be able to fly the airplane that accurately in all reality. So I'm going to look at that, and I'm going to go, right, I'm 6 degrees off track, and that's what my track error is. So if I correct by 6 degrees, that means I'm correcting for the drift, and then what I would end up doing is just paralleling along my intended track. But I don't want to do that, do I? I want to fly to Malton. So what I need to do is determine what my correction angle is. And again, because we've got these drift lines on, we can visualize fairly easily how far off a track we are. Again, if you wanted, you could draw a line in the cockpit on the map, or get your ruler out to kind of denote on the chart without actually drawing it. And I look at that and I say, right, I think I'm about 2 degrees from on that blue line there. So that's my correction angle. So I know my track error is 6 degrees, and my correction angle is 2 degrees. So add the two together, gives me 8. So my new heading is 8 degrees of correction. I need to turn to the right, so 054 plus 8 equals 062. So my new heading is 062. I'd make a note of that, and I could change my bug as well if I had a bug in the cockpit, and then that would be my new heading for the remainder of the trip. And again, you can reassess that when we get to the halfway point and that 3/4 way point as well. So it's just a really, really simple way of visualizing how much error we are off of our intended track. As I say, if you use the 1 in 60 rule, you could probably calculate this more accurately to within half a degree. But the reality of being able to fly within half a degree, I'm not sure that kind of balances out the need to do that. So this is a probably slightly less accurate way, but a much quicker and easier way to do it, I would argue. And you can do this at any point along the flight. So say we get halfway along the flight and we look and we can see actually we're at this bend in the river, and we're off track to the right. I can again just visualize that, and actually it's even easier if we're halfway down track. So if we're halfway along the route, because we've broken this up nice and equally, what we can actually do is just double the drift. So if I look at that, I think I'm about 2 degrees off there, so I'm halfway, so I can just double that. So 2 times 2 is 4. So my new heading is, again, just need to think it in my head. Right, I'm to the left, so therefore I need to correct to the right. So I need to add. So 054 plus 4 is 058. So my new heading is 058. And it's as simple as that. There's nothing more to it. So with a little bit of practice at being able to visualize how far you are between the intended track and the drift line, that enables you to just really quickly determine what your new heading is. So what about timings then? So as I said, we want to be able to get to Malton, find Malton, but we've said it's going to take us 21 minutes to get there. And so we want to get there in 21 minutes. And if we're not going to get there in 21 minutes, we want to be able to determine when we are going to get there. And that may be really important if it's on a PPL skills test, for instance, or you may have to report to air traffic your next expected turning point and the time of doing that. So we need to be able to find that accurately and then update air traffic if we're not going to be able to make that turning point. And again, because we've used this method of breaking it down into 4 sections, it's just some really, really simple maths to determine whether we're going to reach it on time or not. So once again, I'll flying along and I get to Wetherby Racecourse and I look down, yep, and Wetherby Racecourse is there, great, so I'm definitely on track, but actually I'm 30 seconds late. So that means I'm going to be late to Malton. Because, as I say, because we've broken this down into equal points, we're going to be a minute late to our halfway point, a minute and a half late to our 3/4 point, and we're going to be 2 minutes late getting to Malton. So we times it by 2, times it by 3, or times it by 4. And again, you can round this up. You don't need to be precise to the exact second. So my new timing is 30 seconds. It's at my first waypoint, so I need to times it by 4. So I'm going to be 2 minutes late. So my new ETA is going to be at 23 minutes. So again, at this point, I would update my plug to say that. And if I was doing a skills test or flying with an instructor, I would say my new ETA is now minutes 2-3. And once again, you can use this technique at any point along that line where we've got a waypoint. Halfway down, again, is nice and simple. So we're 30 seconds late halfway down. Because we're exactly halfway down, we just need to double that. So if I'm 30 seconds late at my halfway point, it means I'm going to be a minute late to Malton. So my new ETA is now minutes 2-2. And it's really as simple as that. So we're using our drift lines. I've taken them off of this image here just to stop the image being so busy. But on my chart, I would have my drift lines. I can use my drift lines, and I use these points along the route. And it's likely, and in fact, the forecast in the UK is normally pretty accurate. But it's likely you're going to be slightly off on time and slightly off on track. And actually, if you can determine that nice and early at that first waypoint, then that just means the rest of the flight becomes nice and easily because you've corrected for it and you know where you're going, and then you can sit back, enjoy the scenery, and enjoy the flight, and not have to worry where you are and at what time you're going to reach that waypoint. And if we just maintain, as I say, that in-flight routine as we're going along our lookout attitude instruments, making sure we're flying nice and accurately, then the rest of it should come together. So thanks again for watching this one, and as ever, please feel free to add any comments or questions in the box below, and I'll do my best to answer those for you. So thanks for watching, and enjoy your flying.